The human mind. A wondrous labyrinth of thoughts, ideas, and let's be honest, some pretty outlandish beliefs. Throughout history, our species has had a knack for concocting beliefs that range from the slightly odd to the downright bizarre. From ancient civilizations to just a few ticks back on the historical clock, humans have embraced ideas that, in hindsight, might make us chuckle, scratch our heads, or even blush with embarrassment. Let's embark on a whimsical journey through time, exploring some of the most seriously strange beliefs that our ancestors held dear. Fasten your seatbelts, folks. It's going to be a delightfully peculiar ride. Lambs grew where? Back in the Middle Ages, a time when folks were more likely to believe in dragons than in proper dental hygiene, there was a whopper of a story going around. Our protagonist in this leafy legend is none other than Sir John Mandeville, a traveler with a knack for storytelling. Or, let's be honest, making stuff up. He claimed that in a far-off land called Tartary, which is basically old-timey talk for parts of Russia and Mongolia, there was a plant that did more than just photosynthesize. According to Sir John, this wasn't your average veggie. Oh no, it was a full-blown lamb-producing flora. We're talking about gourds popping open to reveal tiny woolly lambs, still attached to the plant by an umbilical cord like some kind of medieval umbilical USB cable. Now if you're thinking, but wait, lambs from plants? That's barred science. You're absolutely right. But remember, this was a time when people believed all sorts of wild stuff. So the story caught on faster than a cold in a convent. Forget to wash. Once upon a time, in a land not so far away, doctors were more like part-time bakers. They'd knead your insides without washing their hands first. Picture this, a world where cleanliness was just a long word in the dictionary, and the idea of germs was as alien as Wi-Fi to a caveman. Yes, we're diving into the grimy, unwashed past of medical history. Enter the scene. The 19th century, a time when medical fashion was all about blood-stained aprons and the latest in corpse residue. Our medical maestros would go from playing operation on the deceased to delivering babies without so much as a rinse. What's this hand-washing you speak of? They'd chuckle, spreading more than just good cheer. Then came our unsung hero, Ignaz Semmelweis, a Hungarian physician with a keen eye and a penchant for cleanliness. One fateful day, after a colleague met a grim fate from a tiny cut, a light bulb moment, but with more blood, Semmelweis had an epiphany. Perhaps, just perhaps, we should wash our hands. Revolutionary. With the zeal of a man possessed, he introduced the radical idea of scrubbing up between patients. Lo and behold, the mortality rate plummeted like a dropped scalpel. You'd think he'd be celebrated, right? Wrong. The medical elite scoffed. Hand-washing. What's next, bathing? Despite writing about his findings, Semmelweis might as well have been penning love letters to bacteria for all the good it did. His work was as popular as a leech at a beach party. It wasn't until Florence Nightingale, the poster girl of nursing, waved the hand-washing banner that the world finally caught on. And so, from the murky depths of medical history emerged the shining beacon of hand hygiene. The flat earth theory. Once upon a time, many people believed that the earth was flat like a pancake. This wasn't just a quirky idea, it was accepted as absolute truth. They thought that if someone traveled too far, they would fall off the edge of the world into the great unknown. This belief was held by various cultures around the globe. Despite evidence from ancient scholars like Pythagoras and Aristotle supporting a spherical earth, the flat earth theory persisted for centuries. It wasn't until explorers like Magellan circumnavigated the globe that the idea began to lose its grip. But imagine living in a time when the horizon was the edge of the world. Spontaneous generation. In the days before microscopes and modern biology, people had some pretty wild ideas about how life began. One of these was the belief in spontaneous generation, the idea that living organisms could suddenly appear from non-living matter. For example, people thought that maggots simply popped into existence in rotting meat, or that mice could appear from piles of dirty rags mixed with wheat. This belief was widespread until the 17th century, when scientists like Francesco Redi and later Louis Pasteur conducted experiments that disproved spontaneous generation, showing that life comes from existing life, not out of thin air. Humorism. Back in ancient times, people believed that the human body was governed by 4 fluids or humors: blood, phlegm, black bile, and yellow bile. According to this belief, known as humorism, the balance of these humors determined a person's physical and mental health. Too much or too little of any humor could influence your mood, personality, and well-being. This belief led to some rather unusual medical practices, like bloodletting and purging, in attempts to balance these humors. Humorism was taken very seriously and influenced medical treatment for centuries, until more accurate understandings of the body and disease emerged.